One of the really neat things about layer masks is that they let you work on your photos in a very selective way. Okay, and what I mean by selective is that you can do something to your photo that you don't want to maybe have done to the entire photo, but only certain parts. And a perfect example is sharpening. In this photo here, what I'd like to do is sharpen, but if I were to just go under the filter menu, go down to sharpen, I'll choose unsharp mask here, and I start sharpening the photo, what I'm really doing is sharpening everything. And I probably don't want to sharpen everything. You know, I don't want to sharpen the background. I don't want to sharpen her skin, any texture her skin might have. I don't want to sharpen parts of her dress, things like that. But what I might want to sharpen would be the hat and the eyes and maybe some of the flowers, things like that. Well, a layer mask will let us get selective in that way. So what we'll first have to do is make a copy of the layer. Just Command or Control J, and that duplicates the layer. Then we'll go up to the filter menu and I'll go down to sharpen, and I'm going to go to unsharp mask, and here's where I'm going to apply my sharpening. All right, and I'm going to zoom in here and let's take a look to see where we can fine-tune our settings. I'm going to go pretty high on this one, so I'm going to go up to about 175%. The radius, not going to go too much higher. I'm even starting to push it at 1.5. We'll leave threshold at 9, and let's take a look at the preview before and then after. Pretty good. And you know what I'm going to do here, just because I know the screen, just by nature of watching videos on screen, sometimes it's a little bit harder to see the effects. So I'm going to actually sharpen it more than I would just for the video, just because I really want you to see before and then after. Okay. But if you're actually following along, keep it somewhere around 160 or 70. So I'm going to hit OK. So what I have is a photo that's way too sharp, all right? I've sharpened too many things, and I don't want to do that. You know, the background, take a look at the background before and then after. I sharpened that, and I really didn't want to, as well as a couple things like on her dress and whatnot. So we can add a layer mask to this to help fix it. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the layers palette here and just click on that add layer mask icon, and that adds a layer mask to the layer. And I want to show you a little trick, because right now the way it stands, all I really want to sharpen would be her hat, her eyes, and maybe the flowers. And as it stands right now, I would have to take a black paintbrush and I would have to paint in black everything that I want to show up from the original layer, so that all I saw was the sharpened layer on top, but only the parts I want sharpened. So I would have to take black and I have to paint over here and paint over here and on her face and in the background and do all that. And that would show me the original layer underneath. Well, that's a lot of painting. I don't want to do that much painting. It's easier for me if I only paint in the things that I want to keep sharp. So what I would do is convert this layer mask from white to black. All right, that's it. Right now it's white, which means I see all of the sharpening layer, and then I can convert it over to black. And the easy way to do that is just hit Command-I on the Mac or Control-I on the PC, and that turns white into black. No matter where you are in Photoshop, Command or Control-I will always reverse the colors. It's the inverse, okay? They call it invert. So now I have black. So now I'm basically hiding everything on this sharpen layer, and I'm showing the original layer underneath, which means that I can take a black paint or a white paintbrush, and now I can start to paint the parts of the photo I want to be sharp. So I'll start to paint on the hat here. All right, just like that. And come down here, maybe I'll paint in some of the areas on the flowers. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Let's paint in the flowers a little bit. Just some of the details. All right. That's looking pretty good. And we'll get a couple more over here. Just be careful not to go over her face too much. Okay. Got the flowers. I'll probably come in here and just make my brush smaller with the left bracket key and just paint in some of the edges here, just to kind of help give a little bit more definition. Okay, and you can see the edges start to come in there. Maybe we'll get down here a little bit with our sharpening. I think the last thing I would do is probably come up here to her eyes as well, and let's get those in a little bit sharper than they were. And you know what? While I'm at it, sorry, I'm going to go for the lips and the teeth too. How bad? A little bit of gloss to it. All right, so let's back off a little bit. And we can see it here. Let's take a look here. I'm going to turn the layer off. That's before, and that's after. So now all we've done is bring in the parts we want sharpening. Look at the hat. Before and then after. The flowers, you'll see it down there. Before and then after. So we've done some nice creative and selective sharpening by using a layer and a layer mask. And you can carry this concept through to anything. You know, anything that you can do on a layer that you feel is too much for the whole photo, but you only want it to be on part of the photo, use a layer mask for it. Now I can take this even a step further. I'm going to add one more layer to it. I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer just so you can see how we can use these things together. We can use adjustment layers and regular layers. And I'm just going to brighten the curve. Okay, and that's going to brighten the curve. I'm going to bring the curve upward, which is going to brighten the photo. And what I really want to do here is take a look. I think her face is a little bit too dark. And I just want to add a little bit of fill light in there, but I don't want the whole photo to be bright, which is what I have right now. Okay, there's one other area we haven't looked at, and there's a new masks panel inside of CS4, and it's usually grouped right up here with the adjustments panel. So I'm going to click on masks, and I'm able to do the same kinds of things that I did before. Remember how I inverted the layer so that I didn't have to paint everything, I just had to paint a little bit? I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to just hit invert. All right, and that just keeps me from having to hit the keyboard shortcut. So this is basically like I've hid the curves adjustment layer. I've totally hidden it. Now, if I take my white brush, I can start to bring it back, because remember, black hides the layer that it's on and shows you what's underneath. White shows you whatever layer that layer mask is on. So if I start to paint with white over the face, I'm just adding a little bit of light back inside of there. Okay, take a look. That's before and that's after. So this whole mask concept is really, it's incredibly powerful, because it takes us from having to just erase, because erasing, it's a little bit too permanent. I can't go back. Like if I erased and I erased on this layer here after I added curves, well, I would have to keep undoing even my curves adjustment to get back to the point where I wouldn't have to erase and I could rebuild it. But by using layer masks, I can just look at this later on and I can decide if there's anything I want to change. I can be very flexible about it, because nothing was erased. The pixels are all still there, but now I can just use this mask to get the best of both layers. And that's really what I'm after with layer masking, is creating something and then using the mask to get the benefits of having these multiple layers inside of the document.